Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day 48 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto. We are in chapter 21, instructions by Maharaj Prithu, and we are continuing on with verse 39. First of all, let us offer our prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachade Jatarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakapaturubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Verse 39. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is everlastingly independent and who exists in everyone's heart, is very pleased with those who follow in his footsteps and engage without reservation in the service of the descendants of Brahmins and Vaishnavas, for he is always dear to Brahmins and Vaishnavas, and they're always dear to him. Prabhupada makes the point that it is said, the Lord is most pleased when he sees us serving his devotees. He doesn't need service because he's complete, the Lord. But it's in our interest, it's good for us. We benefit by serving him. And these services can be offered to him, but not directly, but through service to the Brahmins and Vaishnavas. So, Prabhupada refers to Srila Narottam Das Thakur, who sings, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nisthara Payechi Keva. Unless you serve Vaishnavas and Brahmins, you can't get liberation. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also says, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada. By satisfying the senses of the spiritual master, one can satisfy the senses of the Lord. So this behavior is not only mentioned in scripture, but it's followed by our acharyas, all the devotees. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, Prithu Maharaj advised his citizens to follow the exemplary behavior of the Lord himself, and thus engage in the service of Brahmins and Vaishnavas. Verse 40. By regular service to the Brahmins and Vaishnavas, one can clear the dirt from his heart and thus enjoy supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied. In this world, there is no fruitive activity superior to serving the Brahmin class, for this can bring pleasure to the demigods, for whom the many sacrifices are recommended. Okay, so it's interesting, isn't it? Yes. So Srila Prabhupada refers to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 65, in the first paragraph of the purport. Prasade sarva dukhanam hanya asyo pajayate, which means, unless one is self-satisfied, he cannot be free from the miserable conditions of material existence. So therefore it's essential to serve the Brahmins and Vaishnavas to get the perfection of self-satisfaction. Second paragraph, Prabhupada quotes Narottam Das Thakur, Tandira Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas Janame Hoy E Abhilas. Birth after birth, I desire to serve the lotus feet of the acharyas and to live in a society of devotees. And Prabhupada goes on to say, and what an important point, a spiritual atmosphere can be maintained only by living with devotees and serving the orders of the acharyas. Spiritual master is the best Brahmin, but otherwise at the moment in the age of Kali it's very difficult to render service to the Brahmins. The problem is, in that regard, according to the Varaha Purana, that demons, taking advantage of Kali Yuga, have taken birth as Brahmins. And Prabhupada quotes Varaha Purana, Rakshasa Kalyam Ashritya Jayante Brahma Yonishu. Yes, that in the age of Kali, the Rakshasas have taken shelter of birth in Brahmin families. So anyway, Prabhupada says, in other words, in this age there are many so-called caste Brahmins and caste Goswamis who, taking advantage of the Shastra and of the innocence of the people in general, means the foolishness of the people in general, they claim to be Brahmins and Vaishnavas just by hereditary right, just because they're born in such a family. And Prabhupada makes the point, one will not get benefit by serving them. That's very significant, very important, isn't it? That if we serve these so-called caste Brahmins, caste Goswamis, etc., just they say they're Brahmins by birth, we will not get any benefit. Yes. We'll not derive any benefit, but rather we must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and his associates and serve them. Then one will get full satisfaction. Yes, full satisfaction. And Prabhupada points out that this has been very clearly explained by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his purport to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 41, which begins, Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandan. He's explained, and we actually have here a selection from that purport, which explains the point. Listen to this. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The best kind of intelligence I can have is intelligence used in the service of Krishna. Intelligence is defined as fixed when it is intent upon my spiritual master's instructions, such as chanting the name of Krishna, remembering his activities, and performing service to his lotus feet. My spiritual master's instructions are my sadhana and my life, both in the beginning stages of bhakti as well as in bhakti's perfectional stage. I desire only to follow his instructions. I accept nothing else as my life's work, even in dreams. Whether I'm happy or distressed, whether the material world remains or is destroyed, I don't care. There is no loss for me. I simply must carry out the orders of my spiritual master. Fixedness upon his order is determined intelligence and devotional service, and only by being fixed on his orders can such determined intelligence prosper. So Prabhupada concludes the paragraph by saying, by actually following the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga as Srila Narottam Das Thakur recommends, one can quickly come to the transcendental platform of liberation, as this verse explains, Atyanta Shamam. All right, on we go to the third paragraph. The use of the word anativelam, without delay, is significant, because simply by serving the Brahmins and Vaishnavas one can get liberation. And you don't have to do severe austerities and penances. You don't have to do such things. Prabhupada says the vivid example is Narada Muni himself. In his previous birth, he was just a maidservant's son, but he served great Brahmins and Vaishnavas. So in his next life, he was not just liberated, but he became the supreme spiritual master of the entire Vaishnav disciplic succession. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, according to the Vedic system, therefore, it is customarily recommended that after performing a ritualistic ceremony, one should feed the Brahmins. Verse 41. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ananta, eats through the fire sacrifices offered in the names of the different demigods, he does not take as much pleasure in eating through fire as he does in accepting offerings through the mouths of learned sages and devotees. For then he does not leave the association of devotees. So Srila Prabhupada makes the point that according to Vedic injunctions, a fire yajna is held to give food to the Supreme Lord in the names of different demigods. While doing the yajna, one pronounces the word swaha in different offering to this one. Prabhupada says Indraya swaha means to Lord Indra swaha, and Adityaya swaha, to the Adityas swaha. Yeah. So these mantras are uttered to satisfy the Lord through the demigods, in this case, Indra and Aditya. Prabhupada quotes a very important verse. Naham tishtami vaikunte yoginam hridaye shuva tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. I am not in Vaikuntha, nor am I in the hearts of the yogis. I remain where my devotees engage in glorifying my activities. So therefore it can be understood, the Lord does not leave the company of his devotees. And Prabhupada there's a second paragraph here. Fire, of course, fire has no life, but devotees and Brahmins are living representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So to feed them is to feed him directly. So therefore it can be concluded that instead of offering fire sacrifices, you should just offer food to Brahmins and Vaishnavas. It'll be more effective than your fire sacrifice. And a vivid example of that, very nice example, is Advaita Acharya. He did the Shraddha ceremony for his father, and afterwards he had to feed the Brahmins, the Vaishnavas. So first he called Haridas Thakur and offered him the first food. Yeah. Because Advaita knew Haridas Thakur is the most elevated of all the Brahmins and Vaishnavas in terms of real qualification. So actually in the course of that, Haridas asked Advaita, why are you doing this? You know, there are Brahmins, like born Brahmins around. They may not appreciate it. because he was born a Muslim. But Advaita Acharya replied, I am feeding millions of first-class Brahmins by offering food to you. And he said, I'm ready to discuss this point with any learned Brahmin and prove that by offering food to a pure devotee like you, Haridas Thakur, it's as beneficial as feeding thousands of learned Brahmins. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, when performing sacrifices, one offers oblations to the sacrificial fire, but when such oblations are offered to Vaishnavas, they are certainly more effective. Verse 42, in Brahminical culture, a Brahmin's transcendental position is eternally maintained because the injunctions of the Vedas are accepted with faith, austerity, scriptural conclusions, full sense and mind control, and meditation. In this way, the real goal of life is illuminated, just as one's face is fully reflected in a clear mirror. Prabhupada says that since in the previous verse, it's described that feeding a living Brahma is more effective than offering oblations in a fire sacrifice. Now it's described what Brahmanism is and who is a Brahmin. This is important, isn't it? This is extremely important. So Prabhupada makes the point that in Kali Yuga, taking advantage of this point of the value of feeding Brahmins, a class of men with no Brahminical qualification, they claim the eating privilege of Brahmin Bhojan, of feeding the Brahmins on the basis of birth in Brahmin families. We have encountered, gee whiz. So, but here Prithu Maharaj is giving the exact description of a Brahmin and Brahminical culture. So one shouldn't take advantage of his position simply to live, Prabhupada says, like a fire without light. What an amazing way of putting it. Yeah. A person born in a Brahmin family, but they have no qualification, although they want to be accepted as being bona fide. They're like a fire without light. So the Brahmins have to be fully conversant with the Vedic conclusions described in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, that Vedaischa saravir ama eva vedya, that the ultimate understanding or Vedanta understanding is knowledge of Krishna. And just by understanding Krishna as he is, as Bhagavad Gita 4:9 says, Janma karma chamedav yam evam yoveti tatvataha, one becomes a perfect Brahmin. The Brahmin who knows Krishna perfectly is always transcendental, and this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14:26. One who engages in full devotional service and who doesn't fall down in any circumstance at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So, into the beginning of the second paragraph, therefore a devotee is the perfect Brahman and is transcendental, because he's free from the four defects of mistakes, being illusion, cheating, and having imperfect senses. Yes, so he's in that position because He speaks according to Bhagavad Gita, according to Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, and his representative. So therefore, whatever he says is free from the four defects. For example, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, everyone should think of him manmana and become his devotee, offer obeisances, worship him, ultimately surrender to him. So these devotional activities are transcendental, free from the four defects. And because devotees are in that position, they're always thinking of Krishna, they are his devotees, etc. So they're transcendental people. Yes, because these devotional activities are transcendental, free from the four defects, and people who do these four activities, by the potency of those activities, are transcendental. So therefore, any sincere devotee who preaches only on the basis of what Krishna instructs is virajam, free from material defects. So the genuine Brahmin or Vaishnav depends eternally on the conclusion of the Vedic version as given by the Lord. So this knowledge coming from the Lord is perfect since time immemorial, and Brahminical culture, Vaishnav culture, depends on it eternally. Therefore we should study the Vedas with faith, not just for ourselves, but for spreading the knowledge and helping others to also develop the faith. So Prabhupada then goes on to a third paragraph. And there, Prabhupada at the beginning, Prabhupada says the word mangala, auspicious, in this verse is very significant. And he refers to Sridhar Swami, who says that to do what is good and reject what is bad, not good, is called mangala or auspicious. So what's good and what's bad? To do good means to accept everything favorable for devotional service. And to reject what is not good means to reject everything not favorable for devotional service. So in this Krishna consciousness movement, we accept this principle. We reject the prohibited activities, illicit sex, life intoxication, meat eating and gambling. We reject them and we accept positive 16 rounds every day and doing Gayatri 3 times a day. In this way you keep your Brahminical culture, your spiritual strength intact. Yes, it's really nice. So yes, Prabhupada makes a very important point, by following these principles of devotional service strictly and chanting 24 hours, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, one makes progress and ultimately becomes fit to see the Lord face to face. Because the ultimate goal of studying or understanding Vedic knowledge is to find Krishna. And one who follows Vedic principles can from the beginning see features of Krishna, can see Krishna, the absolute truth, very distinctly as you can see your face in a clear mirror. So the conclusion, therefore, Prabhupada says, is that a Brahmin does not become a Brahmin by birth, has to possess all the qualities in Shastra and practice Brahminical principles in his life. So ultimately he becomes a fully Krishna conscious person, can understand Krishna, and Premanjana Churita Bhakti Velochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Velokyanti as Brahma Samhita verse 38 says, Premanjana, by the one's eyes being treated with the ointment of love, Prem Anjana, then the devotee comes to see Krishna face to face. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the devotee, by development of pure love for Krishna, constantly sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Shamsunda, within his heart. That is the perfectional stage of Brahminical culture. Right, very nice. Verse 43, O respectable personalities present here, I beg the blessings of all of you, that I may perpetually carry on my crown the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmins and Vaishnavas until the end of my life. He who can carry such dust on his head is very soon relieved of all the reactions which arise from sinful life, and eventually he develops all good and desirable qualities. Okay, so Prabhupada gives a shortish purport here. Let's see. So it is said, Prabhupada says, it is said, the one who has unflinching faith in the Lord, which means unflinching faith in the Vaishnava or the pure devotee of the Lord. So that person develops all the good qualities of the demigods. And Prabhupada quotes part of Bhagavatam 5.18.12, which says the same thing. And then 7.5.32, Prahlad says, Naisham matistavad urukramangrim, unless you take the dust of the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava on your head, you cannot understand what the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. And unless one knows the Lord, one's life remains imperfect. Right, so, but a great soul who's fully surrendered to the Lord, after understanding him fully, undergoing austerities and penances for many lives, it's very rare. Yeah. Otherwise, a big person, important person, a king, the king's crown is just a big load. If the king doesn't carry the dust of the lotus feet of Brahmins and Vaishnavas on his head. So in other words, a liberal king like Prithu Maharaj, if a liberal king like Prithu Maharaj doesn't follow the instructions of Brahmins and Vaishnavas, or doesn't follow Brahminical culture, he's simply a burden on the state, can't help the citizens. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, Maharaj Prithu is the perfect example of an ideal chief executive. Verse 44, whoever acquires the Brahminical qualifications, whose only wealth is good behavior, who is grateful, and who takes shelter of experienced persons, gets all the opulence of the world. I therefore wish that the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates be pleased with the Brahmin class, with the cows, and with me. Maharaj Prithu. So Prabhupada explains that the Lord is worshipped with the prayer, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahman Hitaya Cha, that we offer our obeisances to the Lord of the Brahmins, who protects the Brahmins and the cows. So it's clear the Lord respects and protects the Brahmins and Brahminical culture, as well as cows. So wherever there are Brahmins and Brahminical culture, there are cows and cow protection. So in a society where there are no Brahmins, no Brahminical culture, the cows are treated as ordinary animals and killed, see, at the sacrifice of human civilization. So in other words, human civilization is lost. Where there's no Brahmins or Brahminical culture, and the cows are treated as ordinary animals and just killed just like that. So the word gavam is mentioned by Prithu Maharaj. And it's significant as the Lord is always associated with cows and devotees. In pictures you see Krishna, he's always with cows and devotees. Cowherd boys, cowherd girls. He cannot be alone. He should never be depicted alone. Yeah. And therefore, Prithu Maharaj said, Sanu Charashcha, which indicates the Lord is always associated with his followers and devotees. Second paragraph. So a devotee acquires all the good qualities of the demigods. He's a reservoir of all good qualities. His only asset is good behavior, and he's very grateful. So, and that's a very nice point. I mean, the asset of gratitude. Prabhupada says, gratitude for the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one of the qualities of the Brahmins and Vaishnavas. And everyone should feel grateful to the Lord, because he's maintaining all of us. Eko bahunam yovadadati kaman, famous, part of a famous verse. The Supreme One is supplying all the necessities for the many living entities. So therefore, a living entity who's grateful to the Lord is certainly qualified with good characteristics. Then the third paragraph, the word vrid ashrayam is significant here. Vrida refers to one who is advanced in knowledge. Yes, taking shelter of those who are advanced in knowledge. So, Prabhupada makes interesting point. This is one of his subtle points. There are two kinds of old men. He who's advanced in years, and he who is experienced in knowledge. And the one who is advanced in knowledge is actually Vrida, Jnana Vrida. Yeah. He's actually advanced in knowledge. And one doesn't become Vrida simply by age. So Vrid Ashrayam, a person who takes shelter of a superior person who is advanced in knowledge, Vrid Ashrayam, can acquire all the good qualities of a Brahmin. And when he attains those good qualities, then he becomes grateful for the mercy of the Lord, takes shelter of a spiritual master, and becomes endowed with all opulence. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, such a person is a Brahmin or Vaishnava. Therefore, Prithu Maharaj invokes the blessings and mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. With his associates, with the Lord's associates, the devotees, Vaishnavas, Brahmins, and cows. So, devotees, that's the end of that section. That was a pretty amazing and powerful section. Now we go on to the next section, section 6, from verse 45 to verse 52, which is titled, The Assembly Appreciates Prithu's Instructions. that he's just been giving, what we've just been reading for the last couple of days. Okay, verse 45 to 52. Let me just read the verses. The great sage Maitreya said, after hearing King Prithu speak so nicely, all the demigods, the denizens of Pitriloka, the Brahmins and the saintly persons present at the meeting, congratulated him by expressing their goodwill. 46. They all declared that the Vedic conclusion that one can conquer the heavenly planets by the action of a putra or son was fulfilled. For the most sinful Vena, who had been killed by the curse of the Brahmins, was now delivered from the darkest region of hellish life by his son, Maharaj Prithu. Amazing. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu, who by dint of his sinful activities always defied the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, entered into the darkest region of hellish life due to his sinful activities, defying the supremacy of the Lord. But by the grace of his great son, Prahlad Maharaj, he also was delivered and went back home, back to Godhead. All the saintly Brahmins thus addressed Prithu Maharaj, O best of the warriors, O father of this globe, may you be blessed with a long life, for you have great devotion to the infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all the universe. 49. The audience continued, Dear King Prithu, your reputation is the purest of all, for you are preaching the glories of the most glorified of all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the Brahmins. Since, due to our great fortune, we have you as our master, we think that we're living directly under the agency of the Lord. 50. Our dear Lord, it is your occupational duty to rule over your citizens. That is not a very wonderful task for a personality like you, who is so affectionate in seeing to the interests of the citizens, because you are full of mercy. That is the greatness of your character. 51. The citizens continued, Today you've opened our eyes and revealed how to cross to the other side of the ocean of darkness. By our past deeds and by the arrangement of superior authority, we're entangled in a network of fruitive activities and have lost sight of the destination of life. Thus we've been wandering within the universe. Verse 52. Dear Lord, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore, you're the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You're glorified by your own prowess, and thus you're maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahminical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya. So let us go through now the verses with the purports. And we call this, the assembly appreciates Prithu's instructions. Verse 45 to verse 52. The great sage Maitreya said, after hearing King Prithu speak so nicely, all the demigods, the denizens of Pitriloka, the Brahmins and the saintly persons present at the meeting, congratulated him by expressing their goodwill. So there's a sort of a Vedic practice, you could say, and we even do it ourselves as devotees, that when there's a meeting and someone speaks very nicely, the audience congratulates him, saying sadhu, sadhu. And this is called sadhuvad. So everyone there, all the great persons, they're all great persons, and they all heard Prithu Maharaj speaking so nicely. They expressed their goodwill with the words, sadhu, sadhu. They were fully satisfied. 46. They all declared that the Vedic conclusion that one can conquer the heavenly planets by the actions of a putra or son was fulfilled. For the most sinful Vena, who had been killed by the curse of the Brahmins, was now delivered from the darkest region of hellish life by his son, Maharaj Prithu. So the Vedas say, Prabhupada points out that the Vedas say, there's a hellish planet called Put. And one who delivers a person from there is called Putra. The son who delivers a person from Put is called Putra, like a real son. So therefore the purpose of marriage is to have a Putra, or a son who can deliver the father, even if the father goes to hell, to Put. So Prithu Maharaj's father, Vena, he was so terribly sinful, it was just shocking. And he was cursed to death by the Brahmins. Now all of them, all the Brahmins also, they were all there, the saints and sages, after hearing from Prithu about his mission, became convinced that this now proved the statement of the Vedas of how a son can deliver the father from hell. So the purpose of accepting a wife in religious marriage is to have putra. Marriage is not for sense gratification, but it's for getting such a son. But if the son is brought up in such a way, he becomes a demon. How's he going to deliver his father from Put? So therefore the father has to become a Vaishnav, so he can raise his children as Vaishnavs also. Then even if the father somehow falls down to Put, one of the sons can deliver him, as Prithu Maharaj delivered his father. Verse 47. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu, who by dint of his sinful activities always defied the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, entered into the darkest region of hellish life, but by the grace of his great son Prahlad Maharaj, he was also delivered and went back to Godhead. So Prabhupada refers to how Lord Nrsingadev was offered a material benediction, how Lord Nrsingadev offered Prahlad a material benediction. But Prahlad, due to his Krishna consciousness, refused. He just didn't want it. He felt it was undesirable, thinking it's not suitable for a devotee. That doing devotional service for a reward, we don't do that. Devotees don't do that. It's like mercantile business. So therefore Prahlad, because he was a devotee, didn't ask for any benediction for himself, but out of, Prabhupada says, out of affection for his father, he asked that Hiranyakashipu be delivered from hell. So therefore Hiranyakashipu went back to Godhead eventually by the grace of his son. So Prahlad, of course, he's the topmost example of a Vaishnav, always very compassionate towards the sinful who are suffering hellish life in the material world. And therefore, Krishna is known as Paradukha Dukhi Kripam Buddhi, one who is compassionate towards other suffering and who is an ocean of mercy. So like Prahlad, All the pure devotees come to the material world to compassionately deliver the sinful. They undergo tribulations, suffering, tolerating that, because that's another quality of a devotee. So therefore, Vaishnavas offer the famous prayer. Prabhupada quotes it here in the purport. Vanchakalpatarubhyas cha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnav devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone just like desired trees, and they're full of compassion for the fallen souls. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the chief concern of a Vaishnav is to deliver the fallen souls. Verse 48, all the saintly Brahmins thus addressed Prithu Maharaj, O best of the warriors, O father of this globe, may you be blessed with a long life. For you have great devotion to the infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all the universe. Prabhupada points out that Prithu Maharaj is being blessed to live long because of his devotion. So, but Prabhupada says, although one's life is limited in years, one way or the other it is limited. It's not going to be unlimited. If somehow one becomes a devotee, then he can surpass the duration prescribed for his life. Yeah, he can live longer than his karma would allow, or the lines on his palm would say he's going to live. And Prabhupada makes the point that sometimes, in fact, yogis die according to their wish, not according to the laws of material nature, like Bhishma, if you remember. So, but then another point is that a devotee lives forever because of his infallible devotion to the Lord. Either through leaving a good reputation, or going back to Godhead and living actually forever. Yes. So, but Prabhupada is applying it mainly here in terms of a devotee leaving a good reputation as a devotee, lives forever by that reputation. So Prabhupada refers to when Lord Chaitanya was speaking with Ramananda Roy, the Lord asked, what is the greatest reputation? Ramananda Roy replied that a person who is reputed as a devotee, as a great devotee, has the greatest reputation. For the devotee not only lives forever in Vaikuntha, but by his reputation, he also lives forever in the material world. Verse 49. The audience continued, Dear King Prithu, your reputation is the purest of all, for you are preaching the glories of the most glorified of all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the Brahmins. Since, due to our great good fortune, we have you as our master, we think that we're living directly under the agency of the Lord. And there's a lot of truth in that. So, by being protected by Prithu Maharaj, they felt they're under the protection of the Lord. And Prabhupada says that this is the proper understanding of the situation of social steadiness within this material world. Since it's stated in the Vedas that the Lord is the maintainer and leader of all living entities, the king or head of government must be the representative of the Lord, should be, better be. Then he can claim honor like the Lord's. Yeah. So how do they become a representative of the Lord is indicated in this verse, that because Pretu was preaching the supremacy and the glories of the Lord, he was a proper representative of the Lord. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, to remain under the jurisdiction or administration of such a king or leader is the perfect status for human society. The primary responsibility of such a king or leader is to protect the Brahminical culture and the cows in his state. Verse 50. Our dear Lord, it is your occupational duty to rule over your citizens. That is not a very wonderful task for a personality like you, who are so affectionate in seeing to the interests of the citizens, because you're full of mercy. That is the greatness of your character. So, okay, Prabhupada explains, as he has done many times, that the king's duty is to protect the citizens. Then he can levy taxes for them for his livelihood. And since the Vedic society is divided into 4 varnas, their means of livelihood are also mentioned in Shastra. Brahmins should live by spreading knowledge. Then they can take contributions from their disciples. A king should give protection to the citizens for their development, spiritually ultimately, but in general in life, including spiritually. Then he can levy taxes. The Vaishyas, the businessmen or mercantile men, because they are producing foodstuffs for the whole of society, can take a little profit from this to live. And the Sudras, who are not able to work as Brahmins, Kshatriyas, or Vaishyas, should just serve those higher classes, and then they'll be provided for by them with the necessities of life. So then there's a second paragraph. The symptom of a qualified king or political leader is mentioned here. Must be merciful and compassionate to the people. And he has to see to their prime interest, becoming devotees. And the great souls are naturally inclined to do good to others, and the Vaishnavas especially are most compassionate, and a Vaishnava especially is the most compassionate and merciful person. And therefore we offer our respects to the Vaishnav leader as follows. And Prabhupada repeats the Vanchakalpa Tarubhyas Cha, the Vaishnav pranams, as we spoke them just a matter of some minutes ago. And then Prabhupada gives a third paragraph. Only a Vaishnav leader can fulfill all the desires of the people. He's compassionate because he contributes the greatest benefit to society. He's Patita Pavan, deliverer of the fallen souls. Because if the king follows the Brahmins and Vaishnavas, who naturally lead in the missionary work, then the Vaishyas will also follow the Brahmins and Vaishnavas, and the Sudras will serve them, all of them. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, thus the entire society becomes a perfect human institution for combined progress to the highest perfection of life. 51. The citizens continued, today you've opened our eyes and revealed how to cross to the other side of the ocean of darkness by our past deeds and by the arrangement of superior authority. We're entangled in a network of fruitive activities and have lost sight of the destination of life. Thus, we have been wandering within the universe. So Srila Prabhupada makes the point that here in this verse the words Karamabir Daiva Sangitai are significant, that on account of our past deeds, we get the way the word for word puts it, on account of past deeds, we get a position arranged by superior authority. Anyway, in the purport, Prabhupada puts it, due to the qualities of our actions, we get the association of particular modes. And then by superior arrangement, we get the chance to enjoy fruit of results in different bodies, enjoy or suffer. And like this, having lost sight of destinations in life, all living entities just wander through the universe in different species, higher, lower, different planets. But by the grace of the spiritual master and the Lord, we get the clue for devotional life. Then we can make progress, and then success begins. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, here this is admitted by the citizens of King Prithu. In full consciousness, they admit the benefit they have derived from the activities of Maharaj Prithu. Verse 52, Dear Lord, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore, you are the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You are glorified by your own prowess, and thus you are maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahminical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya. So, Prabhupada says that without spreading Brahminical culture and without the proper protection from the government, no social standard can be maintained. Here the citizens are admitting this. And they knew Prithu could maintain a wonderful situation through his government due to his being in pure goodness. So the word Vivrida Sattvaya is significant. It means highly elevated. Highly elevated. So here in the material world, there's goodness, passion, and ignorance. We have to be raised to goodness by devotional service. And there's no other way for being elevated other than devotional service. And as the Bhagavatam has emphasized so many times, you can raise yourself from the lowest position by associating with devotees, simply by associating with devotees and hearing the Bhagavatam from them. And Prabhupada quotes Bhagavatam 1:2:17. I'll just read the purport. When one engages in devotional service in the first stages of hearing and chanting, the Lord, who's in everyone's heart, helps the devotee in cleansing his heart. And second paragraph, let's have a look here. So in the gradual cleansing process, one becomes freed from passion and ignorance and comes to goodness. The lower modes make you lusty and greedy, but when in goodness, you can be satisfied with any condition of life and free from lust and greed. And this sort of mentality, satisfied in any condition of life, free from lust and greed, Prabhupada says this mentality is the symptom or a symptom of one's situation of being in the mode of goodness. But then you have to transcend goodness to pure goodness called Vivrida Sattva, the advanced stage of goodness. So therefore, anyway, then you can become fully Krishna conscious. Yeah. So Prithu Maharaj, although a pure devotee, came down to the level of a Brahmin and Kshatriya for the benefit of humanity. And thus he gave protection to the whole world in all respects by his prowess, as Shaktyavesh avatar and as pure devotee. So although he was a Kshatriya, he was a Vaishnav and Brahmin. As a Brahmin, he gave good instruction. Kshatriya, he gave protection. Prabhupada concludes the purport and the chapter saying, thus the citizens of Maharaj Prithu were protected in all respects by the perfect king. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.